Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another live edition of Veteran Nation. Joining me, as always, is my esteemed and, dare I say, even brilliant co-host, TC. He's liking my
I don't know about
intros.
esteemed, but I'm darn sure brilliant.
Well, you're normally
I would,
steamed,
I would just
so
like to I would like to say on behalf of real Minnesotans, um, constitutional originalist type Minnesotans, we would like to heartily apologize for um, all of the failure on the part of Minnesota law enforcement to intervene and protect Mike Lindell from the unconstitutional and egregious overstep on part of the unconstitutional Federal Bureau of Investigation stepping in and raiding Mike at a fast food drive-through in the fair city of Mankato, Minnesota. Uh,
it's
that
hard
was
to
not
believe that
that was that was not okay with most of Minnesota. So
that's, yeah, a lot of the stuff that they're doing, it's like, okay, it doesn't need to be done this way. You can call people
well,
in.
we're I'm just trusting the plan, Mike. I'm just I'm just trusting the plan
Folks,
because
me and TC are not conspiracy theorists.
no, not at all. And you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to touch that about. It's
Uh,
all about the plan, bro.
There are some good conspiracy theories out there. Mine is the missing cosmonaut theory. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but I'm afraid you're going to tell me.
Oh, I will definitely tell you. It's not that Yuri Gagarin was the first cosmonaut in space, he was the first to return. There's apparently recordings of Russian pilots and stuff like that pleading for help, and they believe that they shot several up into space who did not make it, and only Yuri Gagarin was the first to make it. So that's that theory.
I think that the first several Russian cosmonauts that were fired into space were all secreted away to a previously undisclosed location where they were kept in holding so that they could stage the false flag bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline to, unbeknownst to Americans
I
and
saw
the
that
rest of the
today.
world, start a world war, because clearly that would be in the best interest of Russia to bomb their own pipeline. Yeah. So it was the Russian cosmonauts that disappeared. Them and John F. Kennedy Jr. have all been kept in the same place for such a time as this.
No, I love the one that I heard recently. I think I tagged you in it. Princess Di's been kept in witness protection for the last, what, 30 years is what they claimed.
Well, it's not been quite that long, but I still say she's going to marry John F. Kennedy Jr. and
Trust the
and
plan.
Trump is going to preside over that wedding ceremony on the
It's the
same day
HARP
that they're
system
all ushered
controlling the
into the
weather.
White House. Yeah, they're all going to be ushered into the White House, and this is all happening before midterms. Trust the plan, bro.
So you don't believe in conspiracy
Now
theories,
that
but
we've
you were just
alienated
hanging out
about
with Jesse Ventura.
75% of the people that now that we've alienated 75% of the people that might
Yeah,
tune in,
I'm watching our
we can
viewership tank on the analytics.
Juan is so. You should see his face right now. He's like, "What the hell's happening to the show?"
We're just gonna get crazier
This
and
is
crazier and have more fun. That's all that's gonna
this is
happen.
what happens when we take a week off.
Um, well, we do
We
have
got
a
two
guest.
episodes into
Good.
our new season, and we've lost it.
We do have a guest tonight who I want to bring in. I've actually served with him, Marine veteran Don Wenger, and I am going to embarrass him
Don,
a
my
bit.
apologies ahead of time. My condolences. Uh-oh, we don't have sound.
Oh, we don't have sound on you, Don.
Wait, I'm here. Can
Oh, there
hear
you
me?
are.
Oh, there we go.
It looks like the video's delayed though, for some reason.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna.
look at the output screen, not at at your little floating screen. Just look at the output screen. You'll be all right.
Yeah, it still looks like I'm delayed. I don't know how you guys are seeing me, but
We got you. I got you perfect here.
okay.
I am gonna embarrass you a little bit, Don. For folks who are watching, you may have seen Don before. Uh, I, my favorite of Don is he has a very small appearance in the movie The Naked Gun. The original Naked Gun, not the sequels.
No, you didn't.
Okay, you're gonna like this, TC. So Don's in at the very end of the movie when Lieutenant Frank Drebin is singing the national anthem. Don's one of he's the Marine in the color guard.
But that was actually edited out. I think they edited that part out of the movie.
We can see, and I watched it recently, and yeah, it's not a lot of time, but yeah, you're in there. And then
Oh, okay.
my other
Are
favorite.
we waiting for Juan to bring it up?
I don't know. I didn't send it to Juan. If he has it, I'm sure he will.
I thought we were waiting.
The other one is he is one of the police officers in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So Juan is an established, Don is an established actor. Did many years in Hollywood, and can give us some of the background of how Hollywood runs. So we're talking conspiracies here. Don's gonna break the lid off of all of it here tonight.
Okay. I don't know what you're setting me up for, Mike.
I'm just trying to tease the audience.
Don, before you leave, we will have Juan bring up the side-by-side comparison of Skipper and a minion. Or, I mean, not the minion, Dr. Gru from Despicable Me. So, he tried to embarrass you, so we got your back now.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So, since you're a Hollywood insider, what soundstage was the moon landing faked on?
Oh, jeez. I don't remember. That was a little bit before I got in there. I think it was Burbank Studios. I'm not sure.
All right.
Here's a question for both of you. How does the disc, the spinning disc, not fall off of the turtle's back? You know, the spinning disc that the Earth is?
Juan, we're done. We're done for the week.
We're gonna be cut off.
This is either gonna be the best performing episode, or literally the reason why Better Nation no longer exists.
Tell me a sound that's better than this.
That is a good sound.
I think Don froze.
No, we
there
got
he's
it.
back. He's back.
Okay.
So, Skipper, Don's your guest. Why don't you tell us why he's here tonight? What's he supposed to be talking about instead of being your sounding board for our bad jokes?
Don is a good friend. We were in Afghanistan together, and he and I okay. Here's some of the backstory on what happens. When I'm not on the show, I'm normally texting memes back and forth to several key people and individuals, and Don is one of those. And I always like talking with Don. He has some very unique opinions. I think we generally see eye to eye, but he definitely comes at things from a little bit different of a perspective, which I always appreciate. And I thought he would just be good on the show today. I did send in some topics to Juan, so we can get into some of those. Some that are I think all of us would be dear to some gun rights things that have come up here recently, and I thought, I thought it would just be a good discussion of all of us. So,
Well, why don't we lead into the first one then? Because I'm gonna just devolve tonight if I don't have something to
sure.
focus on.
I think you'll be a little bit interested in this. Go ahead and Juan, put it up. Yeah, a federal judge in New York has uh, he's threatened to strike down New York's law. So for those of you who don't know, New York State and Pistol v. Bruin back in June went before the Supreme Court, and it was struck down. And what New York did very quickly is they passed a new concealed carry law that pretty much just ignored what the the Supreme Court said. So what they've done is they said that with these guns, yeah, you can get you don't have to show the May issue anymore, but they've pretty much said everything within New York is a sensitive area, and you cannot carry within within 1,000 feet of a sensitive area. So things like churches, parks, schools, movie theaters, several different types of businesses. Pretty much, people have looked at the map of New York and determined that this is keeping concealed carry completely out of Manhattan. That there is no way where you could legally concealed carry under the new law anywhere in Manhattan. Have you all been following? Have you all been following these?
Yeah, I was at 22 years old as a master sergeant. How do you like that?
Nobody can see it yet, Don, so don't ruin it for us. So, oh, there we go. There it is.
Yep. So there's Don in the color guard, handling a weapon.
For your service to Leslie Nelson there, whatever his name is.
In California, you could not carry that
so-
weapon at 18 years old now.
Or at any age, really, in California. The biggest issue that we have in the U.S. is the reality that people have, for the last 50 years, honestly, in this republic, have been force-fed this ideology that the Second Amendment refers to a standing, for lack of better terminology, some sort of regulated standing militia. And when the militias went away, as far as the actual state militias and provincial militias, then they said, well, the National Guard replaced that. So what the Second Amendment is referring to is the National Guard. But if you take all of the amendments of the original Bill of Rights, you would have to interpret the Second Amendment contrary to how all of the other amendments are interpreted, because of the use of the word people. And we see this play out throughout the entire Constitution. When the founders and the penners and the signers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights wanted to refer to the states, they said the several states, which everybody should be aware of, actually meant to them nations. They saw the republic as a confederate organization of nations, not of states subservient to the federal government, but of nations that could and would do whatever they chose to do. So when the Second Amendment refers to the people, it's literally referring to people. And when it says a well-regulated, what they were referring to was not laws that could restrict what you could and could not own. It was referring to people who had the ability to train and work with and use those weapons in a way that would be effective in quelling, not rebellion, but quelling and suppressing tyranny. That's always how it's been understood, but we've had this ramrodded and forced down our intellectual gullets for the last 50 years that it means the National Guard. And when you get judges, you get justices that understand an originalist interpretation of the Constitution, this is what you're going to end up with. As judges saying, look, you're about to lose this. And when it comes to sensitive areas, I'm going to be honest, I don't want anybody carrying a firearm anywhere near my sensitive areas. That's just my job.
Well, and it's in New York.
Juan, am I fired again?
What's funny about this judge is he did dismiss the lawsuit, but the lawsuit's been refiled because what he dismissed it and said was to the plaintiff was, you don't have standing because the law didn't go into effect yet. It went into effect, I believe, on the 21st. They've put it back on the docket, and it's going to be heard on Thursday. And this time, there's more plaintiffs on it. The law is in effect, so there should not be a problem of standing. But the judge had already indicated that on its face, he felt that the law was completely against what the Supreme Court just said, was unconstitutional, and indicated he would rule that way. Now, because of the way the courts work, because they were able to refile this with essentially the same people and whatnot, and say it's the same case, just, the judge's ruling now, they do have standing, they were able to request the same judge. So right now, on Tuesday, they're going to talk about a temporary restraining order on the law itself, and talk about getting a permanent injunction while this case goes through its processes. But you actually talked about one good thing, and this was...
Well, I'm interested in hearing what Don thinks, since you brought him on to talk, and we
Yeah.
haven't really let him talk. So, and he says he sometimes has differing views, so I'm ready to tell him why he's wrong. We lost his sound again.
Okay, yeah, I haven't really given much thought. I saw this on the news yesterday, but I haven't really given much thought onto this, so I don't quite have an opinion yet. I'm ready to voice publicly.
Oh, that's okay. We can help you develop it while we're going here.
Okay.
Yeah, we can tell you how to think properly.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's what we need politicians for, right? Tell us how to think.
Just as long as we're not talking about topics that'll
what
get
they're
us
for?
demonetized.
I thought
What's
they
that?
were politicians because someone else was telling them how to think.
Well, that's true too. Well, at least one of them, we know that.
So, yeah.
Are they really telling him, though? So...
And I've been working behind the scenes. I've been trying to get the lawyer Ron Coleman on the show, and he has agreed to come on the show. I just don't know when he's going to come on, because there is a caveat to this law, and that's the second story that I wanted to discuss. There is a group of Hasidic Jews who have created this group. Hasidic. Sorry.
Hasidic.
They've created a Jewish gun owners group, and because this talks about sensitive areas, and it specifically mentions churches and synagogues, this Jewish group wants to be able to carry inside their synagogue, and they're saying that they don't believe that it's up to the governor of New York to make that decision for their congregation. So they are suing as well. So there's also First Amendment implications in this, because everyone has a right to exercise their religion the way they see fit. But I'm interested in seeing if we can get Ron Coleman on to talk about this, because he's from New York, he is Jewish, and I would imagine that he has some pretty strong opinions on this, being that they are being what they feel is unfairly affected.
I could see the First Amendment argument to some degree. I don't like piggybacking on some of this though. I guess for me it's I wouldn't want to attack this on a First Amendment level when it's pretty much only a Second Amendment commentary, and I'm afraid that if you bring in the First Amendment, I think it clouds the issue too much. That's just my position. I think it just clouds it up. I think you just argue it on the purity of the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. And if I could, I'd recommend Thomas E. Wood's book, Politically Incorrect History, because he really talks about a lot of stuff around the Second Amendment. And one of the mistakes that I often make is with the Second Amendment is the idea that it's only about tyranny, where a lot of the men, the founding fathers and people that were responsible for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and passing the Bill of Rights, and getting it put in place, actually saw the Second Amendment, yes, predominantly about resisting tyranny, but also about your ability to protect yourself on the street. And one of the commentators in a letter or an essay, if you will, said people are safe on the streets because they carry firearms, and no one wants to pick a fight with a person who they know might be carrying a firearm, and you're certainly not going to victimize. And of course, I'm paraphrasing because I'm not going to be as eloquent as they were, because modern education. But it just made it very clear that their entire purpose and their point was stop tyranny, protect me from criminals, and go kill a squirrel. And I think we can all agree, no matter what your view on squirrel meat is, it's always good to kill squirrels.
I've never had squirrel.
Juan's gonna all of a sudden develop camera issues and connection issues with me tonight. He's
Gonna start pulling the plugs out of the router.
Well, it's interesting is people that are anti-gun. I get it. People don't like it when somebody shoots up a high school or a shopping mall or something like that. I mean, it's tragic, and we all feel it. But if you look at back in 2003 in Santa Monica, this guy drove into a crowd of people and I think killed 10 and injured 68 people with his car. His name was George Weller. I don't know if anybody remembers that. The Boston bombing, the Chernayev brothers, Ted Bundy, Ted Kaczynski, the Oklahoma City Murrah building with Terry Nichols and what was his name? Timothy McVeigh. None of them used guns. Mm-hmm. So if you outlaw guns, somebody's going to find a way. It's always going to happen. And I'm not one of those, gun nuts. I don't own a bunch of guns, but I still understand the purpose of it, and outlawing guns is not going to change anything. I mean, just like the guy that got mowed down last week, right?
Gun nuts. I'm not a nut just because I own a lot of guns. I'm a nut for a lot of other reasons. No. But it's not the number of guns.
Well, it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 10. It doesn't matter. But it's like the guy that got mowed down last week up in, what was it, Idaho, North Dakota. Yeah, somebody took a motor vehicle. So somebody's always going to find a way.
And Don and I are both in California, where we cannot legally own any guns because they passed all these laws. But one law that they do allow is we can own a knife of any size and carry it openly. So I've been taken to carrying multiple machetes. Just in case of any type of Rwanda situation. And I don't know if you've been to LA recently, but it's starting to look like a Rwanda situation with all of the people living in shacks and tents that are along the roadside.
I go up there every week. As a matter of fact, I have to go tomorrow. So
please do not ever insult our friends in Rwanda by comparing them to anything in San Francisco or LA ever again.
Apologies
By
to
the way,
all
Mike,
the people.
it's the CCP. It's the CCP, Mike, the California Communist Party.
But yeah, that's we can legally carry. We could carry ninja swords. I just may. If any fans out there
Katana,
would like to
Mike.
send me
It's
a katana,
it's
yeah.
called a katana.
If any fans want to send one in to the show, you can always email me, veterannation@protonmail.com.
And if any of you who can't send your guns to California to Mike would like to send your guns to me, you let me know. It's tcpearson@protonmail.com, and we will help you find a federal firearms dealer in the area that you can ship those guns to me.
But yeah, so that's was the big story I really wanted to talk about. And one thing that you touched on a little bit, TC, you know, as we deal with people who are very anti-gun, they keep bringing up a lot of these kind of new arguments. And what's funny about these arguments is they've already been established in the courts. You were talking about well-regulated militia. That was decided in 1934. That's when the Supreme Court defined what a well-regulated militia is. So this is not the current court who defined that. The other thing they like to say is, well, the founding fathers didn't imagine these type of guns. And there's a case from 2016. It was, I believe it was Satano versus Massachusetts, and it was a young woman who was breaking up with a man and felt that she needed to protect herself. So she went and got herself a taser. And he showed up to her work as she was leaving, threatening her. She pulled her taser and had him back off. The Massachusetts police responded and arrested her, and she was convicted. And it went before the Supreme Court. And the whole onus behind her conviction was they said that this type of gun is not covered by a taser is not covered by the Second Amendment because it was not, thought of as practical by the founding fathers. And not only were they turned down by the Supreme Court, but it was probably one of the most scathing opinions I've ever seen. It came from Justice Alito, who pretty much said, no, it does not say muskets. It says bear arms. So any arms that are bearable within military reason are perfectly allowed. And a stun gun would be absolutely that, because there are people in the military who are issued stun guns. And it also stated, Alito also stated that the interpretation that they were using, virtually no one has any ability to protect themselves outside of their home. There would be no arms of which that you could carry under their reasoning. So I did want to bring up that case because they keep saying this, well, that only applied to muskets. No, it doesn't.
Well, the concern that I have with that, and I think it's an across the board concern that most people, reasonable people, would have, is that they would also then argue that you should have the freedom to print and write pretty much anything that you want. And I don't like whataboutism, but no one will then turn around with the First Amendment and say that the founding fathers and the penners of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights foresaw mass media, saw printing presses the way they are now, saw home offices with the ability to print and emails and whatnot. And so it's even like with the argument of, well, you don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater. What people don't understand is that actually the Supreme Court has ruled you actually do have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater. And people go, yeah, but there are consequences. No, the Supreme Court said no. Just because you yell fire in a crowded theater doesn't mean there are any consequences for you. You can't be held responsible for yelling fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah.
You literally can't. And nobody realizes the Supreme Court has ruled on that. And that kind of ruling, whether it makes sense to us or not, ultimately comes in and protects the ability of a dissident voice on any side that's dissident, be it the left wing or right wing. That dissident voice is protected by a ruling like that. And that's the logic that needs to be applied. You don't get to say, well, they couldn't foresee. You're right, they couldn't foresee, which is why they worded things the way they did. You look at, the Bill of Rights and the idea of not quartering troops in your home. Well, they did foresee that because they had experienced that in their own lives. And they said, no, you're not going to be able to do that. And people say, well, that wouldn't happen now. Well, it wouldn't happen now because we've drummed it out of the mindset of the American Republic that the United States government can step in and tell you, you have to allow these Marines to come live in your house if we say so. And I have a lot of reasons why I wouldn't want a Marine to live in my house. And Juan finally agreed with something I said.
Rehired. It's just...
Don, was this the show you were expecting? Or were you thinking it was going to be mostly you and Mike talking about old times?
No, I've seen a few of your shows. I know it seems like it's all over the place sometimes, so that's fine.
Hey! Get him out of here. He's all over the place. We are consistently consistent on the things we're consistent on.
I will actually agree with that. We are consistent on consistency.
Are you right, Skipper?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna live.
We should probably do something that's a little bit more interesting.
There you go. Mike, that does look like you.
The side-by-side that he put up a few weeks ago is even better.
But yeah, I just wanted to talk about these issues because I know I'm passionate about, our Bill of Rights. I know you are as well, TC. And I'm glad to see that the people of New York are fighting. We have some cases here in California that are making their way through the courts. It doesn't seem to be that California is taking the stance that New York is, where they're going to go hard and fast. But there are some cases that may cause them to.
California has... I'm sorry, go ahead, Skipper, finish.
Oh, no, I'm finished.
The problem with California is and I don't want to say problem that the philosophical mindset of California in and of itself is bad, because I think what California does is actually very constitutional in some respects. California practices nullification very well. The problem is they practice it from a leftist perspective, and I believe strongly in nullification. I believe the Constitution guarantees the right of the states, whether it's explicit or not, guarantees the right of and we know that, 10th Amendment, the right of the states to nullify anything that the federal government says, the federal state says. Mm-hmm. And California is very good with that. You look at, they're a sanctuary state. They have cities that are sanctuary cities, and they have cities that refuse to enforce California laws sometimes.
Well, they're sanctuary cities. All these cities are sanctuary cities until Florida starts sending the immigrants to them, and then they're no longer.
What are you talking about? Something particular?
Martha's Vineyard.
What are you talking about? I have no idea. But when you look at something like nullification, that is a lesson that the rest of the country, especially red states, need to look at and take to heart. We really could. We we could actually probably do. One's going to bring up a picture. We could probably do well to see nullification take place in red states when it comes to some of the things that are happening, because it's a wonderful tool. It's a great tool. And do I like the fact that not New York, but California does it well? I don't, but I give them props at the same time for having nailed it. Now, if we could just get a state like Texas or Florida to really practice it, and you look at a guy like Sheriff Mack. Sheriff Mack was kind of on the forefront of modern nullification when he looked at the BATF when the Brady Bill passed into law, and joined with a bunch of other sheriffs, not just in Arizona but across the country, and said, not only are we not going to enforce the Brady Act for you, but we're going to sue you. And the court said no, they have the authority to do that. And that's really what this comes down to. Is we could say all day long that we need to wait for a court decision. We need to wait for a court decision. But all it takes is a municipality or a sheriff or a county to say no, and all of a sudden the federal state doesn't know how to respond. They don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think you've hit on some great points there of things, and that's why it's important for people to be engaged and know what's going on, because like here in California, and it is really hard because California this summer has had some major laws change, especially when it comes to guns. We now have approved lists. There are some guns we cannot have simply because California has put out a list and said, no, you can't have these. And the constitutionality of that is being changed or challenged right now. Same thing with, there's a handgun list that's being challenged. And, I don't think these will survive, primarily because I've read a lot of the opinions and the Ninth Circuit Court has kind of put itself into a corner. But then again, we will see. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening out there, so you have to definitely be engaged locally.
But imagine if we just looked at the courts and said, we don't care what you say, we're just not going to follow you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only reason the courts have power is because the people are afraid of them.
Yeah, and I think we primarily need a lot of judicial reform, and I know Don's on the forefront of this issue.
Oh, really? So here, maybe one of us could shut up long enough, TC. Don, so Don's on the forefront of judicial reform. What's that about?
Well, I'm not. I don't have a JD. The only letters I have next to my name are AD and HD. But with regard to veterans, every state in this country violates the veterans' rights with regard to VA disability. Every single state does it. And there's already a law in place under Title 38 that prevents the states from using veterans' disability for alimony or child support. And we can't get any of the members of Congress to actually enforce the laws that they passed back in 1988.
So wait a minute. I haven't ever had to deal with this, so this is relatively new to me. Are you telling me that in the idea of federal laws is, I don't like federal law, period. I don't really think there should be such a thing as a federal law, but we have it. And you're telling me that there is a federal law that tells all the states that you cannot take a former member of military service and use their income for disability.
use their disability for income.
For income in determining their child support.
Correct. Yeah,
Which means
and the reason for that.
If they are using it, then that means they can seize it as well.
That's basically what they're doing, yes. But there are federal laws that address this. But
you said Title 38?
Title 38, Section 5301, and Title 38, Section 511 under the U.S. Code. And there's one attorney in this country that's fighting for this. His name is Carson Tucker. He's retired. He was a CB, and then then when he got his JD, he became a JAG officer in the Army, and he's based out of Michigan, but he's about the only attorney in this country that's fighting for this, because every state says, "Oh yeah, we can use it for this." And the issue is, you said you don't like federal laws. I understand that too. More of a, from more of a libertarian mindset, I understand that. But when the federal government, under the Veterans Administration, is saying, we consider you to be a disabled vet, we're giving you X amount of dollars in compensation every month. The states don't have the authority to reach up into the federal area and pull that down and say, okay, now it's ours. Now we're going to determine it. And so these state judges.
Go ahead.
These state judges tend to legislate from the bench, and same as the case for housing allowance, BAH, and BAS. Those don't fit the legal definition as income, and you're not supposed to be used.
Well, and I just want to be fair too, that I think most state codes and state statutes are well outside of the norm of the Constitution most of the time anyway. But that's I look at it, and if the one place, and I say this all the time, Judge Napolitano has said numerous times, and he says it pretty much every week on Liberty Lockdown with Clint Russell. He has said that the federal government has jurisdiction over corrupting the American currency and basically treason. That's it. And I would add that if we're going to have a standing military, which we can debate, I wouldn't want to get into it now. It's a much longer show than that, than what we have. But if you're going to have a standing military and you're going to have a Department of Veterans Affairs, then there do need to be protections in place for veterans. And those do need to be honored by the states.
Right.
The big thing about these
in nullification, but the problem is that you don't get to nullify something. You don't get to pick and choose what you nullify.
And the big thing about these is
it can't be
disability changes. For those of us who've been through the VA disability system, they can reevaluate you at any time and say, well, because you're on medication, we don't think that you're no longer 75% disabled. We think you're now 20% disabled, and now your check goes down. Well, the court is not that reactive. So what it's doing is it's putting disabled veterans who are a higher percentage of people to be economically disadvantaged at a much bigger economic disadvantage. And that's a big issue. And I've helped a couple veterans try to get their disabilities increased so that they could have more money, because they were just living, barely even surviving paycheck to paycheck.
I've got a guy here in my area who has reached out to me, and we have a friendship, if you will. He lives in Rochester, Minnesota, but he's on 100% disability, and he's been told, like, oh no, you can't get any other income. And now we all know that's not true. Mm-hmm. You can be 100% disabled and have a job, according to the military.
If you're 100% PNT, permanent and total. If you're not permanent and total, and you're under, I think it's as TDIU, then you can be 90%, but then be considered 100% unemployable.
Yeah.
So, and in that case, you cannot have a job.
And then, of course, the 100% disability is based on your income, as what your structure and all that was, and he's living paycheck to,
Mhm.
disability disbursement to disability disbursement, and the state is taking a massive amount of money from him for child support, and they took his kids from him based on the fact that he's a disabled military veteran.
That's a
And
very,
I'd
very
love to get him
common
on
thing,
some-
and that's
And this is
yeah.
and the judge is the referee flat out told him, well, because you have these disabilities and you have some psychological concerns, your children aren't safe with you. And then they placed the children with the mom, who is literally in a relationship with a convicted felon, someone who I happen to know because this guy assaulted me in the line of duty and tried to kill me. So, I'm like, and I'm supposed to sit here and feel sorry, or not feel sorry, but keep my mouth shut about this poor guy's case because I don't know all the facts. Like, I know everything I need to know, and like, this is how we treat vets, and that's why there's such a glut, not only of veteran suicides, but also
22
veteran
a day.
homelessness.
22 a
or
day, and
more.
that's what's contributing to. It's one of the contributors to this is that kids are being alienated from the father or mother if she's a vet. I'm just looking at numbers here. Look, the Marine Corps is like 88% male, so it's usually he. And the way the court system's set up, it's still the case. But
How
the kids
dare
are
you
alienated.
gender somebody.
Yeah. The kids are alienated, or the father's alienated from the kids, and then they take away his disability, sometimes his only means of sustainment. And sometimes these people wind up living under a bridge or whatever, and they just cap themselves. And
Yeah.
so this
Or
is one of the
OD.
main contributors.
Hey, I think, Mike, you have a fondness for First Amendment auditors, correct?
I do. I have a very big fondness for them.
You are familiar with Let's Exchange IDs, correct?
Yep, Mr. Hines. Yep, we've talked about
Travis Hines?
yeah, his arrest.
Yeah, he was in Rochester, Minnesota yesterday.
Oh, excellent. That's
And
hopefully
had
he was
an
treated
interaction
well.
with our local. He wasn't treated disrespectfully, but he was. I don't know if Juan's listening, but he's probably tuned out already. But Travis was in Rochester yesterday and was run off of IBM Park, private IBM Park, which was not very well posted, and given a 365-day trespass notice for this park. And Travis is, if I remember correctly, was he Army?
Yes, he has, I believe, a medical discharge from the Army. It's been a while since I looked at his case, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was chatting with him on his YouTube channel today, trying to connect with him because he was still in town today, and I was trying to connect with him. I was hoping, beyond hope, that I was gonna be able to take him out for lunch and then have him come down and camp in our backyard, and I was gonna bring him on for the show tonight. And he was looking for a place to charge his laptop, but the local library wanted to charge him $2 an hour to park. And if anybody knows anything about Travis, he literally lives out of his car.
Hmm.
And so it's not. He's got a shall we say, he has a well-regulated YouTube channel and far more followers than I have. But I don't know that $2 an hour is a wise expense for a guy who drives around the country in a beat-up car. So Travis was in our area. So if anybody's interested,
you
can
get all
go
the
and
good
check out
ones.
his interaction with our local PD.
You get all the good auditors.
Well, it's
you and Juan. I've been following, and I'll give him a plug. New Hampshire Press now, who's a gentleman who's up there in New Hampshire, and he is actually going on trial on October 2nd, I believe, is the date, his court date, for doing nothing more than he was doing a FOIA request, and they were denying him documents, and people were calling the police station, so somehow that became his problem, and he was arrested for it. And this was, I want to say, back in November of last year, and they're actually taking this case to trial. So for those of you who are watching, New Hampshire Press now, check out his videos. He's another good one. But yeah, Let's Exchange ID. IDs, Mr. Travis Hines, another good one. But yeah, there's some really great auditors out there, and I've learned so much from these guys. But they are absolutely fighting for our freedoms.
And some of them are people I probably would have some differences with philosophically on certain political issues, but there are a lot of things where we can find really good agreement on. Don, when are you going to launch your First Amendment auditing channel?
I'm working on some other things right now, but
I've been encouraging because as
we'll
me
see.
and John have,
I'll work with Mike for that.
as me and Don have talked about this issue about the military and divorces, I've encouraged him to get some other people together and let's get organized on this issue. And because if we can at least get a petition going and start showing these courts that there are people out there that their decisions affect, and we're gonna eventually just start becoming a lobby, if that's what it takes.
Yeah,
I'd like for these politicians to enforce the laws that already exist. Like I said, this law was passed under the 100th Congress, under the Veterans Judicial Review Act of 1988, and you've got a lot of veterans out there. Michael Waltz, Mike Garcia, quite a few veterans out there. If I don't know if this is just like, I don't know them personally. I don't know if they just don't give a crap, or if they'd be interested in sitting down and listening to this and saying, hey, you guys already have a law. The states are violating it. What can we do to enforce the law that already exists? Because again, it's like, and if you look at the disability, I mean, it's like, think of it like a car accident, a slip fall accident, medical malpractice. You can't take that money and use it for support.
Yep.
VA disability is the same thing. The only difference is it comes in monthly instead of lump sum. And like you said, Mike, it can go down drastically.
Absolutely.
Just like BAH. If you get your BAH established in San Diego County, your support established in San Diego County, and they use the BAH, and then all of a sudden you go to Camp Lejeune, you're talking about $1,000 to $1,500 a month drop.
And you know what? You just address something. You address Camp Lejeune, and these veterans have disabilities because the government put them in positions, did things to their bodies. Not all of it was nefarious, but there are cases of nefarious, of Camp Lejeune, where they knew for 30 years that the drinking water was contaminated, and then for another 20 years didn't tell those veterans that they knew about it and they were drinking contaminated water. And I know people who have been affected by that. I know people who had miscarriages while they were at Camp Lejeune. So if you think your government is doing...
I haven't had one.
If you think the government is doing the good thing by you,
I was
they're
resisting. I was resisting the joke out of respect for the situation, and leave it to the Marine.
Always leave it to the Marines.
Leave it to the Marine. Oh.
No, you're right. And then on top of that, then there's the burn pits, and many of us were exposed to those.
Well, I mean, I can't believe that you would imply that the state would ever allow something bad or even foster something bad. Tuskegee, MK Ultra. Not, they would never do anything like that ever.
Well, I think it's getting
Juan,
to be...
you have to bring up our Martha's Vineyard picture.
Yeah, I think Juan's got some stuff for us.
Please go away!
What?
We're over! Stop!
What's over?
Wait a second. Here you go, 50 Americano, please stop, okay? Can you stop? No, stop! Would you shut up? We're trying to have a lunch here! Would you stop?
Oh. You guys did see that they are now trying to bring the DOJ and DHS, and this is not a joke. The Democrat chair for the DHS is demanding that DeSantis be investigated by the DOJ and the DHS for his actions. I just let
Yeah, and
I,
the sheriff of Bear County, Texas, is also trying to bring criminal charges against him.
For something that did not happen in his jurisdiction.
well, no, the flights originally, I guess the flights
He
originated
basically
out of
implied that they were enticed.
Texas,
Isn't that
So they came in illegally into Texas, and then
It's funny the sheriff would do that. Isn't entrapment what generally happens? Just like Ray Epps, how everyone
Juan,
was,
you got
how he
you got
enticed
something?
people to go inside the Capitol.
I'm not touching the Ray-ups.
We don't want to be demonetized.
I'm
Okay,
already-
we'll clear it up.
I'm already on a watch list.
Dance craze that's really fun. It's called the Biden, and here's how it's done. First, walk away from the podium, then stop real fast and look real dumb. Take a step, point to the floor. Take another step, but don't take no more. Drop your hands to the side, about face, then stare blankly into space. You got it. Step back and reverse. Touch your coat, touch your shirt. Now walk away slow so you don't get hurt, then grab some ice cream for dessert.
I don't want to laugh because literally I've
It's almost elder abuse at this point.
aunts and uncles and grandparents that have experienced dementia. But I don't know, he put himself in this position, so yeah, and sadly, frankly, even like this, he still makes more sense than Kamala Harris. So
I think Juan might have one more for us. Do you?
he's always good.
Are you for pipelines? With respect, Congressman, my personal opinion is
This is what people hate about Washington, D.C. It's a simple question. You're asking for money from the U.S. taxpayer to do cross-state infrastructure overseas as related to energy. Are you for pipelines or not?
I think that
You can't. It's not your
Yes,
time.
I can,
No,
sir.
you can't.
Sir,
You guys messed
you'd
this
like an
all up.
argument,
It's
allow him
not
to
your
answer
time.
the question
Not
in
your
all due
time.
respect.
There's no respect taken.
Evidently, there's no
No.
respect given.
That's because you guys are
Chair-
messing up energy
Chair
for our
recognizes
country.
the witness to
You
answer
guys
a
are
question
making
that
oil
was
and
posed
gas
to him.
ridiculously expensive for Americans, and you don't want to be questioned about it.
Are you
The
pleased
Biden
you're getting the soundbite, sir? I'm not going to
created this
participate in it.
problem. Don't participate then.
Let
Close
the
your mouth and let me
witness-
ask my questions. Don't participate. Let me
Close my mouth, sir.
Yes, you heard it directly. That's why you sound so offended, because you heard what I said. So let's do that and let me finish asking my questions.
Allow them
Thank you.
to answer the
If
question.
he wanted to answer the question, he could. Let's get back to the questions that you don't want to answer. Do you support pipelines? We know that you don't. We talked about what Mr. Light said already, that the Russians were working to manipulate these markets ahead of the invasion into the Ukraine. And what was the Biden administration doing? Absolutely nothing. They were cutting off pipelines here in the United States of America, creating a difficult regulatory environment for oil and gas exploration. You guys are to blame for this. You're interrupting me because you don't want Democrats to have to answer for what Democrats have been doing in the House of Representatives, what the administration has been doing as it relates to energy, cutting off 25,000 jobs as it relates to the XL pipeline, 800,000 barrels a day of oil to the United States of America. You're willing to ask for money for the Development Finance Corporation, money from we the people in the United States of America to develop energy infrastructure overseas, reduce the regulatory environment for energy infrastructure to include fossil fuel usage overseas, but you'll cut it off here for Made in America from sea to shining sea, and you guys are absolutely wrong because of it. Now you can have 2 seconds back.
Yep.
that was awesome.
Hey,
Did you guys see Rashida Tlaib get shut down by the banking committee, or when they had the bankers in?
I must have missed that one.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. She was trying to ask them about going green and refusing to give loans and production account money to Skipper. We're all trying to ignore you and your cat. So
This is
she was
conspiracy
asking these
kitty.
questions, and she asked one of the bankers if they were going to refuse to fund new starters and whatnot for renewable energy, like what we used to euphemistically refer to as fossil fuels. And he told her, "No, I will not refuse to do that because it would be devastatingly dangerous and stupid for the American economy for us to do that." And she was like, and then tried to turn it around to him being a greedy guy who didn't, and then told him that she would hope that everybody who has a college loan through his institution would close all of their accounts there and not do business with them. And somebody very succinctly pointed out, so if they close all their accounts with this bank, they won't get their money back when their student loans are forgiven. So yeah, she got shut down kind of the same way, but by the bankers, which I'm not always a big fan of bankers. So.
Mike, did you like my my analogy to the Mar-a-Lago raid?
Oh yeah. We got to get that one and post it up on the Twitter or the show page. Conspiracy Kitty.
Got to put it on the Twitter.
Conspiracy Kitty says, "Where we go one, we go all."
Trust the plan, Kitty. Trust the plan.
He trusts the plan.
If you know, you know.
Do your research.
Do your own research. How long did you spend making that tinfoil hat?
I found it actually in a store, and they make tinfoil hats for cats. So I am now going to buy a bunch of these, and every cat in my neighborhood is going to be a conspiracy cat.
I think we should do a giveaway every time I make one of my posts about the Kiwakooks. You should enter a name of somebody who attacks me for making a post into a drawing, and then we'll do it here on the show, like at the end of, like right after the election.
And we'll send them a tinfoil hat.
We'll send the top 5 tinfoil kitty cat conspiracy cat hat.
So let's go ahead and we'll do our plugs so we can wrap things up, because I know Juan's getting tired over there, and he's tired of hearing us. Don, you got anything? Don, you got anything you'd like to plug, or is there anywhere you want people to follow you?
Me? No. Oh, well, if you need a voiceover, you can go to my website. But
what's the website, Don? That's how this is a plug, Don. Come, like.
Well, I haven't
realized you were a Marine.
You go to donwenger.com.
There.
I'm just getting started there, so I'm.
So you're doing
And
most
Mike
of it.
knows we talked about this. I had a couple auditions this weekend that I turned down because they were for some big woke companies, and I won't. I don't care how much it pays. I'm not gonna endorse a company that I don't agree with. So, I may not go very far in Hollywood. It's one reason I left Hollywood many years ago, because I didn't like the attitude and the woke agendas and.
Well, you could do a
So-
voiceover for my show, and I'll promote you.
Oh, that'd be great. But one more thing back to the other thing we were talking about, Mike and TC, is for those vets that are having their veteran disability compensation stolen from them. Bob Terrian, he's up in Washington State. He's been working on this for the last 30 years, and he's the brains behind this. He's got a website called veteranhope.org.
Okay.
And if you go on there, if any disabled veteran wants information, all the lawyers will lie to you. They'll either lie to you because they don't want to deal with it, or they're just plain ignorant. because they think that it can be used, and they don't seem to understand that state law can't trump federal law. But Bob has done a lot of research on this and works with attorney Carson Tucker. So I would say, if you're interested, go to veteranhope.org. I haven't told Bob that I'm plugging his website, but he's all about helping people and helping stop the 22 and
Bring him on the show. We'd love to have him.
So I'm sure. Yeah, I might. We didn't meet the past couple of weeks, but I will mention it to him, see if he wants to come on and talk about this.
TC, you got anything you're selling?
Well, I've always got my. I guess you can't. Never mind. One canvas can't. I sell there. There you go. Got the coffee. See, I'm getting really good at this. Got my coffee and got my merchandise. All you have to do is message me, tcpearsonprotonmail.com. You can find me at Robe Regiment on Twitter, on the Twitter, according to Mike, and on the Facebook at TC Pearson. I also want to promote something, since this is Veteran Nation. I have a signed copy of Enough Already by Scott Horton. Here, I just wanted to rub that in. I have a signed copy, personally signed for me. But if you guys haven't had the opportunity yet to read or listen to Scott, any of his stuff, Scott is the director of the Libertarian Institute, and he is also the head of antiwar.com. And I know everybody hears anti-war, and the first thing they think of is, oh, they hate the troops. They don't. Scott loves the troops. Scott came to Minnesota back on September 10th and spoke at an event. It wasn't a large event, but he spoke at an event for Defend the Guard. And we need to really work on getting those guys on here, the Defend the Guard guys. But he came and spoke at the Defend the Guard event here in Minnesota. And he says the things he says, one, because he loves the Republic, he loves the Constitution, and he loves the military members. And he has answers as to how we can keep these stupid, irresponsible, perpetual, illegal wars that we fight from going on. And so check out Scott's Enough Already, and then his new book coming out is Hotter Than the Sun, and it's a call to end the proliferation of nuclear weapons altogether, and especially with everything that's been going on. So check me out on YouTube. Juan and I still have to have our meeting about me doing a show over here on this network too. So anyway, and Skipper, it's your turn. Get us out of here.
I do want to remind everyone that we are turning this show into a nonprofit so that we can help other veterans. And if you'd like to support with that, we're not going to ask you to donate. We just want you to, if you would, buy your hygiene and cleaning products through a group that's supporting us. You can go to patriotswitch.com/veterannation, and you can sign up, and it's all America First companies. Just buy your cleaning products through them. Everything that you go in there and buy, you'll be supporting us financially, and we'll be able to then help other veterans. And we don't want you to change your life one bit. We just want you to help us support other America First companies. Don, I do have a question for you. Before we leave, how does a cat like its steak?
I'm sorry, was that the question was for me?
Yeah, how does a cat like its steak?
I don't know. What?
Rare.
I don't know.
Rare.
Oh, jeez.
And
So-
ladies and gentlemen, this is why we remain nonprofit.
So, folks, thank you for joining us as always, and as with every show, thank you for being worth serving.